If you are hearing that song, that means it is time for some Braves talk. Welcome to Braves Talk, the first one of the 2025-2026 season. As always, to remind everybody, I am the Iceman, Matt Freites, and of course, we have the coach, Brad Powell, and the biggest meta stan in the entire Bradley-verse, the OG Rick Powell, and we will get to that fourth guy in a minute. But Brad, Rick, what's going on, fellas?
Iceman, excited for some Bradley hoops, excited to kick off Braves talk for this season. A lot of new faces, not just on the roster, but on the coaching staff. Tons of excitement, a rivalry that's going to be competing for a Valley championship this year that's going to add a ton of excitement to it. And now I know that, my dad has been drooling over Bradley exhibitions and scrimmages, and now we're on the verge of a real game here soon. And so, Dad, tell us how you're feeling about the upcoming season and the Braves in general.
Well, I think we're going to be pretty exciting. A lot of fun to watch. A lot of new faces. Definitely some old ones. Not old ones. They're still young.
Just
but
you.
Yeah. So, I can't wait for the season to get started. And reminder, I forgot to bring our hourglass, 3-minute hourglass for every time you start to talk.
Oh, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. So,
Yeah.
Rick, I'm very excited. I know that you've been waiting for this for a while, and that if we could somehow get a pirate radio show where you could actually talk Bradley on end all day, 24 hours, we could have made that happen. It is something that we can look into in the future. But there is a fourth guy here. Now, if everybody remembers, let's go all the way back to March, which was the last time we did a show. We did the March Madness Challenge in the Disenthusiast chat. And who ended up winning happens to be the biggest rabble-rouser in said chat, and that is good old Kev, who has been on the show before. It's been a minute, but Kev, this is your prize, and I say that in quotes, where you're able to come on a show, and at your choosing, it just so happens to be the season opener. So welcome, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Obviously, just want to, give a good shout out to the Florida Gators for affording me this opportunity and actually following through on winning. I
Totally
just want
forgot
to,
that.
yeah, I honestly, from a Bradley standpoint, I would be, remiss if I didn't mention how I'm still at this point not over, having a 38-22 lead on our home floor with 2 minutes left in the first half against the team that eventually ended up winning the NIT. And then the other thing I want to make sure I mention before we get into Braves talk is giving a good shout out to Kai Yu and Jackson Seastrunk for taking great care of my daughter during the Brian Wardle summer camp.
All right,
Is this
that sounds
the
like a
first
nice
year?
little shout out.
Is this the first year that
Yes,
she's done it?
this was her first year. She absolutely loved it. Was able to stick around after the camp, and everybody signed autographs. And then because Duke Dean was there, he had a line outside the gym that wrapped around back into the gym to take pictures and sign things for the kids.
Did you ever participate in this camp as a kid? Or
I
obviously at the
didn't.
Brian Wardle camp.
I did not. Back, let me think about that. That would have been Jim Molinari back then. But no, I
Yeah.
did not back then.
Nice. I remember seeing, we'd always talk about it, but I was never a basketball player by skill or interest, honestly. But I remember every year, we kind of kick the tires on thinking about it from time to time. I did get to go participate in a Dewey Calmer Bradley baseball camp at one point in time.
Nice.
So here's
Fun
what I
fact.
want to know. When are we starting the OG Rick Powell camp? That's what I think we really need to know.
I did attend camp when I was a young kid.
I'm talking about now,
Yeah.
Rick. I'm talking about now.
Not like Boy
Go
Scout
into this
camp,
story.
Bradley?
No, not even Boy Scout.
Bradley?
What camp is that for? Yelling at referees?
Is this Joe Stoll?
Perfect.
Hey,
Is this Joe Stoll camp?
lived out a little bit in the country, out by the airport, and neighborhood kids, if you want to call it neighborhood, 9-10 years old, we were free to go out and camp in the woods on weekends during the summer by ourselves. We didn't have adult supervision.
Jesus. So not the Bradley. Lord, I was like, wow, I've never known this ever.
This man's a gem.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
telling
better.
you, we
Hey,
will
what a
learn
great
something new
story.
about him every day, every week.
Hey, I lived the best life back then, man.
You're still living it right now, Rick. Don't kid yourself one iota. You are
I
living your
know it.
best life right now, sitting
I
up
know it.
here,
Hey, every
right
day,
here.
every
Hey,
day.
I wouldn't go that far. His ears are probably still bleeding from me yelling into him during the St. Louis exhibition
season hasn't
Actually, I
even
because
wasn't
he
that
was the
started.
bad.
only one I could talk to.
Yeah.
He might have been the only one listening, but I'm certain you were talking to hundreds of people within 100 feet of you.
But
That does not
yeah.
surprise me at all because I feel like, Rick, you're the kind of guy who's going to talk to anybody and everybody who happens to give you
Oh,
one
yeah.
iota of positivity about Bradley. But that's
Yep.
what we're here for, right, fellas? We're here to
Yep.
talk about this season. We are on the verge of the season, and it's amazing that that has happened because I feel like we did our last show. It feels like yesterday. It feels like the other day. And I just am amazed that we have made it to November, almost at least. And we have a lot to talk about. So, Brad, I want you to walk us through kind of what's happened right now. We have a couple of exhibitions that we've gotten through. We have a win, we have a loss, and we have our first game coming up on the 3rd, I believe, against the old Bonnies. So, why don't you kind of run through what the season and off season has looked like, and then we'll get into it from there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna need some help from the OG and Kevin here because these guys are like way more immersed in like the finer details of Bradley basketball than I am. But like you mentioned, 1-1, won a game up at Green Bay in an exhibition, and then dropped the one at home to St. Louis, which high quality opponent. I thought we were done with Robbie Avila, but apparently not. He was probably like, man, I thought I was done coming to Peoria, but here he was. So I think that I did get a chance to watch the replay on ESPN Plus of the Green Bay game. I did like most of the things that I saw. I think in the second half, obviously, like he, you know, emptied the bench and played everybody. And I like the fact that, he left some of the young guys in there when it came down to like those tough minutes at the end of the game when the game was close, just to kind of see what they were made of. And I wasn't at the St. Louis game. It wasn't broadcasted anywhere. So I got, accounts from these guys and then obviously in the chat. So, I'll kind of turn it over to Dad here, and then I'm sure that Kevin will chime in to kind of give the finer details of what they saw in those two games.
Yep. Well, they started out really well against St. Louis, and then the starting, the 4 returners that got a lot of the time, which is Birch, Bully, Meta, and Thomas. Thomas didn't start, but they did not come out looking very good at all. But they did get, with the exception of Meta, did get up into double digits. At least Birch and Bully did. But Birch's shot just was not there. It didn't seem like. And then there was a few bright spots. I like the attitude and the aggressiveness of Dietrich coming off the bench. Later on in the game, he showed some sparks. Montana, I think he's going to be very, very good here as long as we can keep him around. The difference between the two games, it looks like he was somewhat handcuffed. He wasn't looking for his shot as much during the St. Louis game, but he still looks good. He looks smooth. And, that's kind of like what I like. And a few other players, kind of shine. Ubris, we're going to need him. He's going to be big on the perimeter. And AJ Smith, he's going to be a ton for people to deal with.
Kev, I'd like you to field that question actually
Me
about
too.
that Kenny presented. Yeah, about the, what was more concerned, the defense or the offense as far as
Y-
St. Louis goes?
Yeah, honestly, I can probably speak to both games on that. I felt like in spurts, both games, our defense was a real big issue. I felt like going back to the Green Bay game, we played really well early to the point where we had a 17-point lead with 17 minutes left in the game. And then it seemed like we subbed 5 guys out at once, and then and a few minutes later we subbed another 5 guys out, 5 guys in. And I know Coach said in the 2 exhibitions that he was going to try and just kind of mix and match and see what he had as far as playing different guys together in rotations and seeing what certain groups would do together. But I felt like at one point in that game going from being up 17, we got really stagnant, and especially on the defensive end, we gave up 43 points in the last 17 minutes against Green Bay to make that game a heck of a lot closer than it should have been. The St. Louis game, we were doing okay. I mean, we honestly we were behind 4 points with about a couple minutes left in the second quarter, and then a couple plays went sideways with Meta, and then all of a sudden we're down 10, right right as you get into the half. And the problem with the second game is it started with we had a lot of wide open looks that we just were missing very poorly. And then that started snowballing into not taking care of the ball. And then it just kind of went south from there. And then, we were running 8 deep until that point that Meta made a couple bad plays in a row at the end of the second quarter. And then he pulled him for Kai, and then we didn't go to 10 and 11 until the game was basically well in hand, and then we threw Dietrich and Matthew out there. And I
Yeah,
think we were down 15 points, I think, when they finally got into play. But I mean, the assist to turnover was 10 assists, 10 up, 15 down. You're not going to win a lot of games with that, let alone win a lot of games against competition like St. Louis. And especially when you're not, we didn't defend the three well. We really didn't defend the paint well either. I think they had 52 paint points, which was a whole lot. I mean, it was not very good defense from top to bottom. The only two guys I felt like played pretty good defense were AJ Smith and Jaquan, who were used to playing fairly good defense.
Kev, I
Yeah.
want to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. No. With the comeback at the Green Bay game, Green Bay started attacking the paint, and that's when they
Yeah.
started their comeback. And it was all game against St. Louis, where they would start. They would dive into the paint, kick out to a wide open corner. And they were
Yeah,
deadly from out there.
yeah, and it makes me nervous because I'm really not sure what our answer is there. Because, and I don't, we talked about this during the game. Meta seemed a bit slow to me, and there was a conversation that happened yesterday that Coach Wardle said part of the reason Toussaint was brought in is because we had injuries over the summer to all of our bigs, and something I didn't even know about. So that's
Yeah.
something that could be possible there, that he might be a little bit behind. But the way I
Yeah.
look at it is I'm like, I don't know what our answer is there.
Yep. Yeah. I don't, outside of the techniques, being in the right spot, not moving from it, doing what you're coached.
Yeah, one thing I find interesting is I love the fact that we're able to play these exhibitions against D1 competition, because what you're able to do is put these young guys in tough situations, especially late in the half and late in the game, because I mean you cannot recreate those scenarios in practice. You know what I mean? As much as you want to be okay, like hey, 15 seconds left, no timeouts, down by 2, go. It's different when there's referees and there's a crowd and it's a good opponent. And so I like the fact that we're getting the opportunity to see how these guys perform in those moments, like just kind of mentally what they're made of some, because you can see their skills in the gym all day long, but until you kind of put them in these high pressure situations, um, you're not really sure what you have there in terms, of a guy that's going to keep his composure and make the right decision. And obviously, they improve on that over time. And a guy that seems like, I know he struggled against St. Louis a little bit. And I know you guys have some opinions on why maybe, but a guy that seems like he is not afraid of the spotlight at all is Montana Wheeler.
Yeah. Yep. It's like I said, I mean, he was still quick, and his movements were very smooth, but it's like he was not looking for that shot like he did when he first came in at the Green Bay game, and he was nailing them. I mean, he did take couple shots, but I mean, it was well into his playing time, into that game. But
Yeah, and speaking to a couple things you mentioned, Brad, it's always, and you're well aware of this because you played football and everything, and it's after at a certain point you keep practicing against the same people, everybody knows everybody's tendencies. And so at some point, it's going to be a lot more beneficial to start getting exhibitions and getting games in against other competition, especially to see where you're at. Because I mean, I've heard handfuls of coaches over the years say, "Oh, well, we were really good in practice against each other, but that's also because we suck." I mean, you you guys can either look really bad or they can look really good in practice. That may not necessarily mean anything. And then you also have the practice players that aren't quite as good when the lights go on. Speaking on Montana Wheeler, I thought he looked outstanding in the Green Bay exhibition. He came in and he was really aggressive and shot the ball well early. Whereas conversely, he came in the St. Louis game and he just seemed very tentative. And I don't know if that was just kind of the feel of the game or what he was told. But it was at least 3 or 4 series in, out, in, out, in, out before he came in and actually started looking at the rim and considering, putting up shots to, try and score. So I'm not sure about that, but I feel like with the amount of minutes we are going to need him to play, we need him to stay aggressive for sure.
And that kind of gets to what I was going to ask. You guys kind of answered my own question, but I want to highlight Joey's comment here because it's speaking specifically to defense. But Brad, you know this. I talk about this probably have every year that we've done the show, that the Wardle system, the Wardle culture, it's something that is unique in the Valley in the sense that it has been so long standing there. And when you have turnover every single year, finding out where these pieces fit in, finding out how they adjust to the expectations of this system, because the system is not really changing. Like, we are expecting what we expect from a Wardle coach team. And so these exhibitions, while we can nitpick on plays here, plays there, and so forth, what I think that we're looking for as fans and even just critics of the program in general, from what we've seen, is we're seeing how they adjust in these moments. So we're going to see good things, we're going to see bad things, but I wanted to highlight Joey's comment here because I do think that it speaks to one of the strengths of the Bradley program, but also something that, as he pointed out, is going to show growing pains and you're going to have to get through. And I think that that is something that we saw in both exhibition games where you saw a lot of growth and you saw some places where maybe there still needs to be growth. So I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was an astute comment that speaks to the Wardle system as a whole. And also the proof is there. I mean, it's been successful.
Yeah, and we've said here before, I know I've said this, and it's not a slight at all. It's not a criticism. I think that Brian Wardle is hard to play for. And it's not, again, that's not a negative thing or an attack at all. I just
It
think
just
he's a little
is.
old.
That's who he
He's
is.
he's just a little old school in his
Yeah.
philosophies, which is fine. It's
Yeah.
just it's a defense first, rebounding, toughness. I mean, that's the way he came up. That's the way he played. And you know what though? When you're, I mean, let's just face it. When you're at the mid-major level, like I call it with as respectfully as possible, like it's kind of the island of misfit toys. Like every player you have is going to have a deficiency. If they didn't, they wouldn't be at Bradley. And so like you have to overcome that talent disparity. And when I talk about that, I mean like nationally, when you get to the tournament to win these games, you have to overcome that talent disparity with things like toughness and grit, and culture. And I know those are these buzzwords that some people like to scoff at, but I think that those things matter. And if you're able to establish that culture consistently, like you're able to turn over a roster the way it happens these days and maintain, like the floor is much higher. I think if you're able to at least sustain the culture, regardless of the talent level that you get on the roster, like the floor is higher because the culture that's been established in the program and the toughness that comes along with it. And so I respect it. I love it. Like I've always kind of like favored that mentality as a coach. And I think that, if it's one of those things that if you can embrace it and buy into it, I think that you can really excel in it. And I think, we've seen talented guys come in and leave because it's just, they can't get on board with, they don't like someone leaning on them the way that Brian Wardle leans on you. And that's more a testament to them than, a testament. That's more of an indictment on them than it is on Brian Wardle, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's an extension too into the fan base. And Kev, I think you can probably speak to this because I would say you're probably one of the more critical people of the basketball team as a whole, not because you hate on them, but just that's how you watch the game. That's the kind of fan you are. But the expectations that Brian Wardle has set over the years is not just for the team, but now the fans and the fan base has come to expect those things too. So when you all watch games and you're looking at what's happening on the court, you're looking at it through the prism of the expectations that Brian Wardle is asking. And so I think that is a great thing to know, because Brad, I think you and I talked about this last night on our football show, where it's like there's so much turnover in all of college sports. So to have this kind of consistency here, to me, I think speaks to, and not just consistency, but the success behind it speaks to what Wardle has done. And I think those expectations, while they may be old school, they may be seen by some as tough, they work, and they work for this program. And the kids who come in and buy into it and excel in it are bought into the system. And that's exactly what you want. And Kev, yes, I know I kind of like threw you under the bus there, but not really. You're very critical, but I think, again, there's so many different types of fans. But would you agree with the assessment that that's kind of what you're looking at the team for, based off of what you've seen from all the Wardle teams that you've watched?
Yeah, and it's going to change from year to year based on what the roster makeup is, and again, as Brad mentioned, playing in the Brian Wardle system, there's a baseline for the requirements that you have to meet and you have to adhere to be able to continue to play in his system and also to be successful in his system. From his side of things, anytime you look at somebody who has some level of success, there then become expectations to that. And that, goes on the coach's side, it goes on the player side, but it also goes on the fan side as well. The reason we can be hard sometimes is because they've set the standard for levels of what we can expect. And they've done it now. He's now 10 years in. So, the expectation is that when guys move, like Duke Dean, move out, you're going to find players like Montana Wheeler and Dietrich Richardson and Matthew Zobrist to come in and replace those guys. And eventually you're going to be at the level that, we would expect you to be at. And it's going to depend on, some of the transfers that have come in, and it's going to depend on Jaquan Johnson and his leadership abilities on taking over the reins from Duke Dean and making sure that we, are continuing to move forward and upward. But it's, as Brian Wardle said, we do have the second youngest roster in the entire conference. So there will be some growing pains, but there is a good mix of players that should get us to where we feel like we need to be. Now, I'm not saying it's a Valley championship per se, but if we have guys come in that play above the ceiling of where we expected them to play, then that could happen for sure.
I think it's interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how these, how specifically Jaquan Johnson and Damarian Birch handle being kind of the guys, right? Because they've kind of been able to sit behind Duke, and we had Connor Hickman, and learn and grow, which is a good thing. You see that about like quarterbacks, right? It's great when a quarterback can sit behind a veteran and learn and not be thrust into it. But when it's your turn, it's your turn. And so I'm very curious to see how those guys evolve into larger roles. But, you mentioned just the roster as a whole. And so I'd kind of like to maybe move in that direction a little bit. And I know that Dad's got some notes here on the roster to some degree.
I was told that he had no notes, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't
have none.
I don't mean that in a negative way, but I know that I'm saying this is a compliment. You're someone that looks at the roster from top to bottom, and me, I'm more of a person that's like, show me the 8 guys that are going to play. That I kind of like hone in on that. But you're always looking at the big picture and the future, which is a good thing. And so I know you're excited about some of these guys on the roster, as you should be. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the roster a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't really have.
You don't have to. You don't have
to.
All I
got
no,
is
Rick.
No.
Rick, what we want to know, Rick. What we want to know is Meta going to win Valley Player of the Year? That's what we want to know.
No. Hey,
what the hell, man? That's your guy.
If he does, and I tell you what, I hope he does. If he does,
You guys be in
we
great
are
position if he
Valley.
does.
We are Valley regular season and tourney champs. If that's the case, but he's got a long way to go to get there. Trust me.
Meta's getting a Christmas card if that's the case. Birthday card too.
It's getting a lot more than a Christmas card.
Get him a winning
That's right.
lottery ticket. but not, you want to talk starting lineups or
I have a question for you, Rick.
What
Rick, I do
believe
have a
top
question
8,
for you.
Top 9.
Rick, so we make fun of you about the meta thing, but I know you have been looking at the new guys who are coming in, and obviously they're going to have an impact if they stick around. In your mind, who is the person, like the new meta for you? And I don't mean that to make fun of you. It's like, there was a guy that you had a lot of hope
You're
for.
You're talking freshman?
I'm talking
Mainly
anybody who is new that you're excited about. I mean, I know you talked about Montana Wheeler a few times, so is that your guy?
It's got to be freshman, and to me, it's Montana.
Mm-hmm.
I like Dietrich. Hey, don't get me wrong. But I think of the 3 actual freshmen, there's more than 3. Count Gustavo or however you pronounce his name from Brazil, but he's redshirting.
Don't count the guys that aren't playing this year.
No, but of the 3 freshmen, given Matt Zobrist, Dietrich Richardson, Montana to me is rated higher than Dietrich is, but they're 2 different players, so I don't want to compare the 2. But as far as for the position and what they're going to bring to the team, I think Montana is going to bring it, especially sooner than will Dietrich. Dietrich's going to be really good.
I think Dietrich's more of a slow burn.
Can I give a hot take here, and then you can go back to talking about the rest of the rotation?
I'll play the outro once you give it.
I think all 3 of them are going to win us a game this year.
Yeah, okay. I would not put that. I'll agree with that 100%.
Wait to see.
100%.
Everybody
still waiting
check
to see
him in the comments later.
Out of Matt, but I mean, he does the effort. No, not you.
Not you. You can't shoot the 3.
I never expect much out of you.
Whoa! Nobody knows that for sure. Come on.
I just take what I get. But
see, they don't come here for facts, folks.
No. But in my opinion, I mean, if you want to talk your starting 5, I mean, right now it's got to be Meta. He's got to play a lot better than he did during St. Louis. I mean, way better.
That's a tough draw, though. I mean, Robbie Avila, that's a tough draw.
Robbie Avila had no effect on him. I know you asked me the question, because I'd mentioned about Birch and his shooting and Bully, some of his shooting and the way things looked early on. And you asked me, could it have been the level of competition we were against? And I said, no. I mean, the shots were so bad and they were wide open shots.
I mean, I felt like Meta was a cumulative effect of throwing different guys at him and having him go out of the lane, go back into the lane, go back out of the lane, go back into the lane. I mean, he only ended up playing like 12 minutes.
There was absolutely no post presence of him whatsoever.
No. Well, I mean, he played 12 minutes. When we played 40, if you don't count the count the 5th session, which he didn't play anyways.
Yeah.
He only played 12 in the 40. So.
Yep.
Hey, maybe they all played hurt, unlike the ISU guys.
They did. Or at least that's the quotable that I heard.
Yeah. Yep. But I don't know if you want to go starting lineup in a rotation of 9. Say 9. I'm going to go starting 5. You got to go Meta, Birch, Bully, Ubrist, and AJ for your starting, and then depending on the position, next guy off the bench, your point guard, you got to bring in Montana, and you got Thomas down in the post. And of course, there's Vandernap. Then beyond that, I mean, depending on where you're at in the game, I mean, so Dietrich is not a bad person to bring in. I mean, because he's going to need to get the experience, but I mean, you still don't want him to come in and hurt the team, and I really don't think he's going to. But
hey, playing 10s, I mean, to play 10 guys is a lot, and Wardle's never done that down the stretch. Who's the odd man out? And I think the easy answer you may give is Matthew Zobrist, but I think his shooting ability makes him really hard. It makes it really hard.
A lot of it I mean,
take
yeah,
him
a
out.
lot of it's like Rick said, a lot of it's going to be real situational depending on who we play and depending on how things are going.
Yeah,
Because
because
I
you
mean,
got to add
if we have more
Ewan.
games where, yeah, I mean, if we have more
That's
games
11.
where Birch is shooting 4 for 14, there's going to have to be games where he comes
Yeah,
out. I mean,
yeah,
his defense somewhat is keeping him in it and keeping him the ability to play more minutes. But if you can throw, Dietrich Richardson in there for, if he's having a really cold night, if, God forbid, we have some sort of injury again, because that
yeah.
seems to have been happening a lot more
Well,
lately than it was previously. I
and
mean,
in
you've
fair,
got other guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
in fairness to Birch, though, on his shots, those were shots that he was nailing last year.
Oh yeah, he was he
And
was
that's the
unconscious
head scratch.
last year. He was at one
You
point
know,
he was over 70% from the floor. So I
yeah,
mean, and it just
and
to
and
echo what you said when we were talking about the SLU game, there were a lot of shots early that were
yeah,
open looks that were
yeah,
not. I mean, we're not close.
yeah, and a lot of bullies bad
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
shots were driving and just bad timing and putting them up when he's kind of covered. And they were getting just snuffed before they even get 3 feet out of his hand.
Well, and that's
yeah,
one thing too that he's going to deal with is he's now a focal point of the scouting report for other teams.
yeah,
Where last year, I mean, sure, by the end of the year, he was someone people were going to pay attention to. Um, but I mean, he is going to be a focal point. And also, one thing that's slightly concerning, not to like keep going back to the SLU game, but like Wardle, I think, mentioned that like they were going to game plan a little bit for SLU, right? And so it's like, man, like you game planned, and it's like I get you got to shoot, right? You got to shoot the ball, and you got to make decisions. Um, but it almost seemed like, and maybe that's just a thing, right? Is like learning these guys, some of these guys learning to operate within a game plan, and maybe that's a little bit of some growing pains we're having, especially with some new pieces. And hey, let's not forget new coaches,
Yes.
right?
yeah.
New
Lots
coaches.
of new coaches. Lots
Yeah.
of new coaches. We have a new guy running the offense. We have a new guy running the defense. So
Yep.
yeah,
It's
it's a lot of turnover.
the St. I mean, had we made even 25% of the shots, out of Birch and Bully, not saying the outcome would have been different, but it'd been a lot better game. And let me ask you this point, because it was especially shown in the Green Bay game. I think they did it a little bit during SLU, but Montana and Bully playing together. The difference was, I know at the Green Bay it was Montana running the point and Bully the off. My thought is, I think it looks better. Well, it would possibly be ran better with the opposite, Bully running the point and
Yeah,
Montana running the two, because his outside shot to me looks a lot better than does. And I know looks that it's production you make
Well,
them.
being on the ball never hurt Duke's shot.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, I would tend to agree. The problem we ran into in the SLU game is I mean, they have bigger, better athletes,
but we're
and
gonna have to learn to deal with that, though.
yeah.
I
Well,
get that. Those
I
those are
mean,
teams you got to compete against. I get that. If you want to
yeah,
be who we all want Bradley to be,
sure.
that's a good point.
Yep.
Well,
Next.
now that we've talked roster, guys, Brad, I want you to get into kind of where we are with the season opener, because I know we have our first game coming up. It is in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which, by the way, fun fact, that is where my wife went to college at Winthrop University. So there you go.
There you go. That's exciting. And they're also, you mentioned they're playing a team who you work with many alums from
I
St.
do.
Bonaventure.
Ironically, there is a guy who I know, who I work with. He lives not far from here. His license plate is Bonnie's. So he is full-blown Bonaventure all the way. They're all from like Rochester, Buffalo area. So it makes sense that they would all go there. But it's amazing that I know so many people who went to St. Bonaventure, but also so many people who went to school like at these basketball schools like Dayton, St. Bonaventure, things like that. So when I met you, Brad, and you mentioned Bradley, I already knew who they were.
Yeah, and so I mean, we got to get you a flag or something to start flying.
Actually,
there
what I
when they're-
want, Joey, what I want is we need to make a coffee cup for your coffee pot thing, because you'll put on a pot of coffee, I feel like, every single show, and you have for like the last year. So I feel like we need to make that a thing. I will do that.
That's his
Absolutely.
gimmick.
That's awesome. I love it, man. I'm here for it all day long. So, yeah, the Field of 68 showcase, Monday, November 2nd or 3rd. 3rd? Yeah, 3rd, whatever.
Yes, third.
Yes,
Correct.
they're
And
85
anyway,
hours away.
and the Braves are going to be, I think, what amounts to the second game of the season. There's a game that tips off at like 8 in the morning Central Time. Like that's, oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
I think this is at 10 a.m. Central Time.
That's some Big Ten football right there.
Bradley and St. Bonaventure. And you know what? Like what a great mid-major matchup, right? Bradley and St. Bonaventure. And this is the type of game that Bradley fans have been wanting Bradley to play for a long time. And so it's great to get a game like this. Yeah, it's great to get a game like this, and the fact that it's going to be part of this event. Um, Looking forward to that. And I think that we all agreed when we planned to do this that we weren't going to do a deep dive on St. Bonaventure because, like, what do we know about St. Bonaventure? That they lost a lot of guys, they only retained a couple, they spent a ton of money on NIL, and they're a perennial mid-major. I don't want to say powerhouse, but like upper echelon mid-major program, right? And but as I said to you guys when we were chatting offline before the show, this is way more about Bradley figuring out Bradley than St. Bonaventure.
Yep.
And great opportunity to get a good win, but this St. Bonaventure is the most irrelevant factor in the equation because the Braves have to take care of the Braves and do their thing, figure their things out, not turn the ball over, compete, defend, rebound, the whole deal. And I think that if they do those things at the level that we all hope and expect, the result will take care of itself, right? And so I don't think that any of you guys have any big, analysis on St. Bonaventure, but I'd be curious what you guys think about the opener. It's super cool to be a part of an event like this and play a great opponent to open the season. My only concern is you have to take these games, you can get them, and I think having the two D1 exhibitions help. But like Wardle, traditionally, historically, is one of those guys that like the more games they play, the better they get, and so it's like, man, it's like that's what was so great about when they used to have like the bracket buster, right? It's like once you were really in like true form, you got to play an equivalent opponent to kind of like establish where you were in that like mid-major,
That's the
anyway.
OG's take on Bonaventure, St. Bonaventure, is they're
Here
very
we
similar
go.
to Bradley right now. They are. I mean, if you look at the players coming back, the incoming players, be a transfer or a freshman, size, I think we're a little bigger height wise. Maybe our length is a little bit bigger. Their biggest guy, they got like 6'10", then it goes 9 to 6'8".
Don't they have a guy that's a little wider?
6'8" guy that's like 270. It's going up against Walker from ISU.
Yeah,
and
that's coming from a wide guy.
And Meta took care of Walker last year. Both games, actually. I went back and looked at stats. And yeah, he pretty much handled Walker. He'll do it again. Walker player of the year. Give me a break.
Anyways, Kevin, what do you have to say about the Bonnies?
Honestly, not a whole ton that you didn't touch on. I mean, they have three pretty good guards, Simmons, Charles, and Bowen. Bowen is the one holdover that played last year. He played the first 10 games of the year. He was a transfer from Iowa, wrecked his knee, so then had to sit out the rest of the year on a medical redshirt, and then came back. But again, yeah, mostly transfer-laden squad, pretty big and physical up front. You mentioned the guy that's 270. They have a couple other kids. They have a couple Italian guys. One of their freshmen, 6'9" kid, Osasui is his name, and he played a lot of minutes early in their exhibition. Problem is, their exhibition was against a nobody. It was against Alfred College, and no, I don't mean the guy that worked for Batman. College from about I think 2 hours southeast of Buffalo. I mean, you wouldn't know where it was unless you looked it up like I did. But really, like
Dedicated.
you said, Brad, honestly, this is every bit as much about Bradley as it is anything, and it's going to be every bit as much about Bradley figuring out Bradley and who Bradley is and who Bradley's going to be up until about the point where we go on the road to San Francisco. And hopefully we have figured it out by then after this game and 2 home games after that.
Yeah, and what a great opportunity that is, right? To go on the road and play a program like San Francisco.
Yeah.
They came here last year and we, from what I recall, right? I mean, it was a pretty close game, right?
2-point game at the
Yeah.
end.
And so you got to believe they're going to want to get that thing back. And, 2 programs that are always, competing for their conference championships. And that's a tough place to play. Oddly enough, I just randomly came across a lot of San Francisco home games last year, like on ESPN Plus or just regular cable TV a few times. And it's just, I mean, there's nothing fancy about it. I mean, it's just kind of a big gym. But they fill the place and, I mean, and let's not, we've not performed well on these, West Coast road trips specifically. And I mean, I don't want to, I mean, whatever, it is what it is, but what?
Don't say that. That's a little negative. We just brought home a surfboard trophy not long ago.
I'm thinking about Washington
He's
State.
thinking about Washington State, BYU, Utah State, all of those.
And
I'm
what was it
assuming
last
what
year?
he's
Was
thinking
it
about.
Santa Barbara or was that last? I mean,
that was Santa
Clara. Sorry,
Santa Clara. Yeah, Santa Clara.
Vegas.
That's almost an amazing comeback, really, after as poorly as we started that game.
Yeah.
But
So,
no.
It's got to be. I think it is. I mean, the Santa Clara thing was sort of a weird, neutral site deal, but we'll see what happens. I'm not trying to make excuses by any means. Like if you're a good team, you got to go play well on the road. But looking forward to some of the opportunities that the non-con presents between, obviously St. Bonaventure going to San Francisco, hosting Washington State. Great opportunities to get off to a good start. And that's really kind of where we've tripped up in prior years, is dropping a few of these. And it's like, even when we take care of business in the Valley, it's like you look back, like last year, even it's like, man, if we could have figured it out and beat Santa Clara, this is maybe a different conversation we're having on Selection Sunday, right? I mean, and but that's why you play those games, is to put yourself in that position.
Throw Kenny Gould's question up.
Yeah, I do like that they're starting their season off against a super quality opponent, because it does get you right into the fire right away. But you're right, Rick. Kenny has had this question on the board for a while. So, Kevin, I want to go to you for a leading score, and there's only one man on this broadcast who's going to talk about metastats, and that is the OG. So, Kev, take it away.
Wow, leading scorer for the opener.
A lot of pressure here.
Tell you what, I'll go a little bit out there. I'll say Alex Hubricks.
Yep, that's going to go with.
Yeah, same. It was the first thought.
It was going to be
in my
between
head.
him and AJ.
I was going to say Alex for sure.
All right. And what about you, Rick? This is a big one. We did this all through last year, but now the stakes are a lot higher because
Meta 8.77 boards.
Kev, what do you think?
Blocks.
Oh yeah, blocks, of course.
8.7 boards should get us a win.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many
What
blocks?
about blocks, Rick?
Blocks,
like 12.
I think we get more out of you than we will Meta.
Yeah,
You
what?
gets
More
up there,
block?
man. You can jump.
Zero
Yeah.
blocks.
Yeah.
That dude, honestly, Caillou's so athletic. It's crazy. How athletic that dude is. It's impressive.
I think he's still trying to find his balance and his mobility a little bit, but
Right.
He's
he
very
will help
athletic for a
us before the end of the
7-footer.
year.
Yeah, I mean, for a 7-footer, the guy moves really well.
There
Yeah.
was the
Incredibly
replay at the Green Bay game where he went to block a shot down low, and the guy had to shoot the ball way high over over the reach, and they showed the replay just because they wanted to make sure you didn't touch it.
Yeah,
if you see how high his feet were off the ground,
Yeah.
He jumps so high he could block a ball with his foot.
yeah.
Meta can't even jump half that high.
No.
I mean, not that I've ever seen. I mean,
No, you
Superman shit
could
right there.
I mean, and nothing against him, but I mean, there are
no.
times that you could barely put a piece of paper under his feet.
Yes, yeah, but the blocks. I don't know. He might get a couple, but I'm not going to go out there and
How many fouls?
I'm gonna go 0 right now.
Fouls?
Fouls.
I'm
Maybe.
just going off the basis of who they're playing and the size those guys have.
Yeah.
It might be a
There's
little
still nobody on that
more
team that's as
difficult to
big as
block
him
that shot.
outside of the 270-pound guy. And he's 5
Yeah.
inches shorter. So
Well, there you go. There are your predictions for this upcoming game. So we have a little bit of time between
8-7.
the Bonaventure game and the next game, but I think we have a little bit of time, guys, a little bit of runway here to talk about the Valley as a whole, because coming into this year, I think that there's a little bit of a change in the guard, a little bit in terms of preseason, I guess, outlooks on it. You know, Drake had a transcendent season last year after turning over a head coach, and everybody was kind of pissed off about that. But there's been a lot of chatter about Illinois State as well. But Bradley's also in that discussion. So, Brad, why don't you lead us off on kind of talking about the Valley a little bit? I'm sure Rick has some notes on this.
I don't think he does, but I mean, it's all up there in the old
It's all up
noggin,
here.
I'm
Yes,
sure.
yeah.
Kevin
We're in
definitely will
mid-season
have some.
form, fellas.
Kevin will have some notes for sure. Obviously, high level view is, we obviously hope the Braves are going to be up there in the conversation. But yes, you mentioned a changing of the guard, and don't get me wrong, like I'm here with everyone else in a hurry to bury Drake as quickly as possible. But like we all thought that they were going to see a bit of a drop off last season, and that did not happen.
There's a reason.
Well, people seem more confident that there's going to be a drop off this season, which I tend to agree with. And I think part of that too is the ascendance of like a program like Illinois State who retain their guys. Murray State's expected to be up there as well. And I tell you what, we're finally getting we're finally going to get the Murray State and the Belmont that we paid for, right? From the Valley perspective a little bit, which is really nice to see that pay off, because like that has not been the case with Valparaiso, right? And I mean, we talked about that as a fan base ad nauseum. UIC has been more impressive as a Valley member than Valpo has, in my opinion. Now they're going to have a hell of a time retaining the talent they're able to get, but this is going to be a 4 or 5 team race. I think is things, and obviously you got to put Northern Iowa in the equation because of Jacobson, and the guy he's a wizard. He just finds a way to like get guys to play hard and to stay there, and you got to respect his talent as a coach. And that's a tough place to play. It always has been. And so you can never write them off. And maybe not in terms of winning a championship, but like it's always one of those games. If you're one of the top teams like that, that's never an easy game to play. So if you're talking about putting yourself in a position to win a Valley championship, those games get against Northern Iowa, like those are important games. So I'll turn it over to we'll go to the OG and get his off the cuff, and then we'll go in. Kevin can unroll the scrolls and and feed us the deep dive analysis on the Valley.
Okay, here's my take on it. And all the preseason stuff is just preseason, and it's a guess more than it is anything. But
don't say that, because now listen, everyone's super fucking pissed because the Valley won't release, a preseason all comp, which I agree, but you can't tell me it means nothing and then be mad that the Valley won't.
Preseason is more of a fan thing.
Sure, but you cannot say it means
okay.
nothing, but then be mad when the Valley has decided to like forego preseason accolades.
Well, anyway, as
Kev's
far as
looking a little
picking
uncomfortable, fellas. Let's keep it together, all right?
as far as picking teams, I mean, you got to look at things. I mean, like Murray State has pretty much, just like Drake, I mean, a full roster, new coach, but they've got some players who have, great reputations from wherever they were at before.
Well, you don't even have to be able to read to get into Murray State.
Well,
Man.
but still, the talent
Seriously,
there. So people have got Murray State. Some do as 1 or 2, to finish, and that's based on what? That's based on the players, what they did somewhere before. But here's the unknown. And we saw it at against the St. Louis game. How well do the new guys play together with the old guys? And in Murray State, they don't have old guys. Everybody is new. The entire staff, the players. Now, Illinois State, I mean, it's based on a team that finished 5th last year, brought virtually all their guys back and got a couple new ones. But based on that, that's just like where we were ranked last year, preseason to come out first. But, and like Drake, I mean, Drake's thing last year, I mean, they got the new coach, but hell, he brought more than half his team that he had the last year. So, I mean, there was some continuity there. That makes a big difference. So when you bring in a bunch of players, it's really hard to pick. But I like generally what most people have picked, the top 5 or 6 out of the Valley. But there's still an unknown with the rest of them.
Do you think that's why like the Valley shied away from this thing, is because the rosters turn over so much that it makes it really hard to like
it's possibility.
actually have like meaningful predictions or analysis on this?
I
mean, and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I am not trying to let the Valley off the hook by any means, but like that's a reasonable belief, right? Is that like, hey, these rosters turn over so much now. How do you know? Like you're just guessing.
But then, I mean,
well, then what do you have experts for? That's stupid. That's a stupid rationale for. Well, we don't know.
Expert.
Well, fuck you then. If you don't know, then what are you doing? Like, that's dumb.
Well, heck, everybody that puts out everybody puts out a preseason, all Valley team.
You're gonna tell me a beat writer at Valparaiso, Indiana knows, and I have no idea. I'm not sorry. That's probably a bad example because I know
Paul's probably one of the more knowledgeable people.
Yes, he is. You're right. That's a really terrible example. But like, whatever. Pick.
Use Missouri State. They're not in the Valley anymore.
Well, that's not even fair either because
use Wyatt.
He let Wyatt left and went.
Throw Wyatt under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, I got to throw him under the bus because he got a big boy job. So, but no, I think that. To call these guys experts it's not fair to them. Yes, they report on everything else. Yes, sorry, Joey. I that was a bad example. Like that was purely based off of like just the Valparaiso vibe in general. Which I know you live up there and your wife works there. So all due respect,
in mid-season form, fellas. Like we are off to a hot start.
All due respect to the Beacons, but no, it's just. To call them experts, I think is, like I said, it's not fair to them because they do their best, and that's what every league does is the beat writers, and but I mean they have nothing to go off of now. Like I said, we're talking about turning these rosters over at 70 or 80% half the time, and you're just guessing. So again, not letting the Valley off the hook, but like I get it to some degree.
Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, so my one issue I take with that is it's not like these guys were playing in Zimbabwe and you can't find tape on them. Do your jobs. I mean, that's what these guys get paid the big bucks for is to
big bucks. Where's Aaron?
Yeah, well,
Aaron would be in here losing his mind.
Some of the guys do, but part of the job and part of the job as it's been forever is to do that before the season. I mean, and that's where, I immediately first I'll hit on Joey's statement. Joey, that's, you mentioned ISU, not Murray. Well, that's why ISU is a teaching college. It's so they can teach their players how to read. But, just where I'm starting off is I'm not going to discuss the ludicrous watch list that the conference put out. It's ridiculous. Jeff Jackson, anyone else involved with that should be ashamed of themselves. I'm just looking directly into the camera here.
We're calling out people by name now.
That said, if Jeff Jackson wants to come on the show and discuss, why they made the changes, then, I'm sure the boys here would be happy to have him.
Sure, that'll happen now, Kev. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Instead, I'm not sure if I'm breaking news here, but, this is a tip of the cap to Valparaiso and the Victory Bell. There is actually a preseason poll and preseason first and second teams that we could discuss that was put together by a bunch of the writers. And sad to say, guys, but they picked Illinois State first. I mean, I'm still not buying into it, especially after those two. I don't know really how else to put this shit show exhibitions they had.
Based off their roster, truthfully, based off their roster.
Oh
and their
yeah,
new players,
absolutely.
they
It's
should be
based off
prepared.
of they literally have the most people coming back, and they are the only team. They're the only team that has two guys that are
I love it.
first team all preseason.
I hope they get picked
We
first every year. In the preseason.
and just a note, if you didn't see the article, Quan made first team and Birch made second team on the list from these guys that picked it. But I kind of put together a thing on every team, and Matt, feel free to wrap me up whenever you need to wrap me up. But just one thing to look for each team, and so I started from top down with who they picked first, all the way to who was picked 11th. Just kind of leaving out Bradley because obviously we'll talk about Bradley over the course of the entire year. But ISU, it was based around, if all the injured players can come back and, be big contributors, and then they can all coexist with just one basketball. Because if Skunberg's going to be this, great, amazing player, and he's going to have the ball a lot, then how is Kinzinger getting the ball a lot? How is Walker having the ball a lot in the post? I mean, they're going to have to figure out how to coexist with that group and make sure it's successful. And thus far, not only have they not really been successful with it, but they haven't played any defense either. And mind you, the Illinois game, Illinois was missing players as well. So it wasn't just Illinois State that was not playing Walker, not playing Kinzinger, not playing Pence. Illinois was missing quality players as well. So Northern Iowa, yeah, well, I mean that kind of goes without saying. But so Northern Iowa was picked second, and really all I look at from them is they also need to stay healthy, and they need really good point guard play if they're going to sit near the top. That is the one thing that they didn't get last year after their point guard injured his knee. Is they had two major contributors go down with knee injuries, and just could not seem to put it all together at the end without that leader. Murray State was actually picked third. Bradley was picked. Bradley was picked third. Then Murray State was picked fourth. Murray State, it's more whether they can hit the ground running and mesh well with all of their new faces under Miller. They actually are one of the teams that has played somebody in the exhibition, and they beat Xavier. So that's something to actually look at and see whether that's something that's for real or not when we get around to it. So Belmont got picked after them, which Belmont's an interesting case because they've actually had a couple publications pick them to win the Valley. I believe CBS Sports picked them to win the Valley. And so, like with them, it's whether their high-level transfers like Nick McLean can mix in with their returnees like Lundblade, who really shoots a three unbelievably, and they can challenge for a title there. And then they do have the two-headed monster up front with the two big guys returning as well. So that'll certainly be a challenge for Bradley on New Year's Day when we first play them. Drake got picked after them. Again. Not really a whole lot to say about Drake. Third coach in 3 years. Will they continue their dominance? I mean, personally, I'm not really terribly impressed with their roster other than one kid that came over from the Dakotas with the coach. Other than that, I really haven't been impressed with a whole lot that I've seen. SIU was picked after them. They have 4 guards, House, Stafford, Steffi, Mayo. They're going to go as far as their guards are going to take them. UIC, even more so. UIC, I looked at their roster yesterday. They have 11 guards on their roster. 11 on their entire roster. I mean,
well, that's a coaching blunder.
Says the same thing. Well, and their lead guard, as you're well aware of, I believe he's 5'7" or 5'8". Yes, Jim Les. he's out there wanting him to play a five guard rotation. So Indiana State, we talked a little Indiana State the other night with Aaron, who was in the house to watch him play against Butler. I mentioned the same thing now that I mentioned to him, said, they need significant jumps from Voloshin and Wagner, and then they have to supplement with some of their new faces like the Harding boys. Valparaiso, we're starting to get to the bottom of the barrel, guys. Valparaiso, will they have another freshman of the year candidate? JT Pettigrew would be the clearest cut option for that. And again, side note to that, are they going to have enough guys to not sit near the bottom and make a jump? I mean, they started to make a jump last year, and then their two best players bolted. So it seems like a continuous running cycle with Valparaiso that as soon as they get somebody and they get talent, they head out the door almost immediately.
So that's going to be like a job like that. That's a 1-year proposition, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like if you're Roger Powell, like you have to hope to catch lightning in a bottle one season because, and we talked about this last night when we talked about football, like at the mid-major level, especially like let's talk at the Valparaiso mid-major level, you have to hope that like you can recruit tremendously and like find these diamonds in the rough or whatever, like guys that people overlook, get them in, but like you can't just do what they did last year and like come on, you've got to like win the league, right?
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, like a Roger Powell, you're never getting out of there unless you do that, and like
Yeah,
you're
and
never going to retain those guys to
you could
try
be
to
the
make another
greatest.
run at it.
Yeah, and I mean, you could be the greatest salesman in the world, but for whatever reason, they can't keep guys after they've been there for a year or two. I mean, even I go back as far as when they started to come on at the end of the year during the year, but prior to COVID, and they ended up making it all the way to the championship and playing Bradley. And we're looking at that team that Bradley's playing against, and we're like, man, well, we're losing a bunch of our guys because they're all seniors and they've got all these guys there. They've got Clay and they've got Freeman and they've got all this talent, and then they're all gone. So I mean, it just keeps happening at Valparaiso.
It's got to be so frustrating if you're on the sideline and you're thinking, I've got this kid. He's so good. Damn it, he's leaving.
Yeah. I mean,
Can only
I
imagine the
imagine
frustration.
it's incredibly frustrating for the 76 Valparaiso fans too.
By the way, Kev, you mentioned Drake, three coaches in 3 years, and I was like, what is he talking about? I completely forgot. And this
Forgot
is an
about
indictment on
DeVries,
Drake
didn't
for
you?
sure. No. I forgot that McCollum
Oh,
turned last year into another
Yeah.
head coaching job. Like
Yeah.
that, I
1
was
year.
like, wait, what? And I just completely forgot about it, which goes back, Rick, do you remember last year we had a 2-word phrase that kind of became a catchphrase for this show. Do you remember what it was?
Fuck them all.
Yeah.
That's not what it was.
It
No,
wasn't.
that's
Yeah,
not what it
so
was at
it's
all.
getting old.
That's
Get him
one
out
of
of
those
here.
fuck
He's
Drake.
done. It
Oh,
was.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
You might have to
that's-
make a replacement this year with the phrase.
everybody but Drake.
Fuck
we might
State.
have to, but it was
Yeah.
just funny because Kev, it reminded me of that when you said 3 coaches in 3 years, and I was like, that I probably shouldn't admit this on air that I completely forgot about it, but also fuck Drake because I completely forgot
Yep.
about it. It wasn't
not
even
that
something that
Not that I was the creme de la creme, but the guy was coaching D2 basketball like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now
I
he's the head
know
coach
that.
now.
I mean, good for
I mean,
him.
like-
I mean, he's
but
making a.
hey guys, don't sleep on high level D2 basketball. I
No,
mean,
that's fair. I wouldn't
that's-
know otherwise, but like, I mean, obviously he showed he had the chops last year.
yeah, absolutely.
sure.
By
I mean,
by the way, we did forget Evansville. If anybody wants to actually
No,
talk
we
about
didn't. No, we
Evansville,
didn't.
or whether David Ragland will keep his job after this year.
which is great because I don't think I got to tell you guys this. So a friend of my son's, their parents were friends with, and we were there earlier this year. Brad, I think I texted you about this, and I mentioned something about Bradley basketball, and she's like, I went to Evansville. I'm like, what are the chances of that? Like, what are the chances in Washington, D.C. that I come upon an Evansville fan? So now every time I see her, I usually say, go BU, and she gives me a look. And so I can't wait for the season to happen because I now reminded myself that I have something to text her about.
Have you asked her before? Have you asked her before why an old pimp is their mascot?
Well, I was gonna say
Oh.
they may have no shade at Kaboom. They're definitely in the running for best mascot. Like it's
Yeah.
close, like for sure.
Well, if you want to go
The
back
ace
to that, don't
purple,
forget
right? Like
when
that's, I
Dave
mean,
was on
it's
here,
in the
we went
running.
through all of them, and it
Yeah.
was one of the better episodes that we did last year, and that was a lot of fun. So we just kind of ran through the whole valley, guys. I feel like we've kind of caught up a little bit. So it's been a long off season, but we're here. I've been very appreciative of everybody in the chat. The chat's been kind of popping tonight, and popping by our standards. Like we're not getting carried away here, but I think it's been a good show. So I think we can wrap up pretty soon here, but we have any final thoughts from the OG on what we got for this season? Like I need some positivity from you, my man.
Oh, we're going to be very exciting. Like I said, fun to watch. Going to be sometimes it's going to be frustrating to watch because I think, as a fan and the bar had been raised so high that, I didn't want to say so high, but I mean, we have an expectation from a fan base of, and based off, how Wardle has, brought his teams in, over the last 10 years and, improved. So, effort is one of the big key things I think, we need to see. We've seen it in spurts, but we need to see it for 40 minutes, just all out effort from this group and do that. We're going to be hard to beat. I really see that, but it's
I
going
like
to take
it.
effort.
I like the confidence. Brad, what about you? What closing thoughts from you?
I mean, honestly, to piggyback on what my dad said, like, I think back to, I mean, guys, I started going to Bradley games in like Jim Molinari's first year, like just like 91 or something, right? Um, right on the heels of the Hersey Hawkins era. And there was a couple of years, those are some dark days a little bit for Bradley. Short-lived, thanks to Jim Molinari, but like my childhood though, much like Kevin's, was full of like nearly peak Bradley basketball success, right? I mean, like competing for Valley championships, going to the NCAA tournament, like making deep NIT runs, and Carver Arena being sold out all the time. And then we had, of course, we had the Sweet 16 and things like that, and then we experienced nearly a decade of futility. And so like to think, to look back 10 years just to say, and to think about where the bar is now for Bradley basketball, like we are all fully expecting, rightfully so, to go into this season and compete for a championship. And we expected that last year, and we expected that the year before that. I mean, and realistically, not just like delusionally. I mean, they have a roster to do it, they have a coach to do it, they have the resources to do it. And I at one point in time, man, like in the dark days, I really wondered if Bradley basketball would ever get back to what I remembered in my childhood, if it was ever possible. And just because the way the landscape evolves, if you kind of fall out of grace as a mid major, I think it's hard to bounce back and regain that foothold and sustain it. And Brian Wardle has done that for Bradley, and he's done that for the fan base. And so I'm just grateful, man, to like be a fan of this team and to be able to go into a season with like these expectations and know that they're realistic and not just like some pipe dream. That this team is going to compete for a championship is like, I don't want to take it for granted, is what I'm saying, because like I remember what it was like when you're like, I just hope we don't play on Thursday. We lived a lot of years, man. Like I just hope we don't play on Thursday. And here we are where we're like, we're thinking about, okay, what are our biggest obstacles between us and a championship? And that's a great place to be. That's a great place to be as a mid-major program. That's a great place to be for Bradley basketball in Peoria. And I'm excited that we have this platform to come on here and like share that passion with everybody. I'm grateful Kevin could join us and come on here and like, just it's and the thing is like it's all like, and I know like, Kevin, we talked about it earlier, like, maybe to some you come across as critical, but it's all just passion, man. It's just passion. Like you love the program, you love this team, you grew up with it like I did. And like, it's just because like you care so much, because it means a lot to you and it means a lot to all of us. And I'm just pumped to get this thing started.
Perfect segue, Kevin. This is your around the horn moment. You have won around the horn. It is time for you to get up on your soapbox and tell the masses anything you want.
Yeah, so much like Brad said, it's I go back to when the Geno Ford era, when he basically drove the program into the ditch. I wasn't sure at that point whether we were ever going to get to a point where we got, 8,000 fans ever back in the arena again. I mean, that was a legitimate concern from a lot of us. And we've not only gotten that, but we've gotten a lot more in certain games as well. And we've gotten to a point where hopefully, continuing on that trajectory, we can, keep growing in that as well and get more season ticket holders, get more people in because, it's exciting to watch. The one thing I will say for this year is myself, especially trying to figure out how to exhibit a little patience because we have only 5 guys, and honestly, I'm not even sure I should count 5 because Timo barely played last year. So we basically have 4 guys that played together last year out of this entire roster. So there are going to be some growing pains. There are going to be some struggles, but we have the right people in place. And I mean, I met a couple of the assistant coaches over the summer as well, and we're in really good shape based on who has come in. And this is the best freshman class Wardle has ever brought in. So I mean, we're in really good shape there. I feel like at this point the sky is the limit, and we're going to go as far as all of the talent's going to take us. I mean, everybody needs to get out on the floor, and buy into their role and execute, and that's about it.
Well
And
said,
then
Kev. Well said.
my last thing, side note, completely off topic. Go Blue Jays. Please save baseball for 2027.
I mean, Canada. Who needs Canada, right? Anyway, so Kev, that was very well said. All of you well said. I do want to say as well, I want to shout out the Spaces from the other night. I think it was Tony and Josh who put that on, and we're kind of
It's great.
piggybacking off of that. And the thing is, I heading into this season, we are part of what I consider a menu of what I feel like is becoming a very rich fan experience in the content area for Bradley basketball. And quite frankly, whether it's this show, whether it's a Spaces, whether it's a forum somewhere, I don't really care what it is. I consider all of it part of this organism that is the Bradley fan base coming together to talk about this team that we all love and we love to talk about. And so I know for me and everybody else, we really appreciate anybody who has stuck with us, anybody who watches, listens, whatever it is. We're part of this equation. We're going to be here throughout the entire season. And quite frankly, I'm very happy and very humbled that we get to have this spot. And so I will say this, I hope this finds everybody well and safe as I always do. Big games coming up. Bradley, Braves Talk. We are all here from me, from the OG, from Brad, and from Kev. This is Braves Talk.